Hey, what's up, guys? Voting isn't just in the polls anymore, or election day. Options like early voting, mail in voting, and ballot drop boxes are available to more voters and are growing in popularity. How to Vote is a tool created by Democracy Works, which breaks down the options your state offers for casting a ballot and empowering you to decide when and where to vote. Democracy works best when we all vote. That's the truth. But misinformation and confusion about election procedures have resulted in low voter turnout. How to Vote is a tool created by Democracy Works that takes the guesswork out of the voting process. It's easy to use and helps folks all over the country overcome many of the process barriers to voting. Democracy Works is also committed to helping you vote no matter what, and their tool How to Vote does just that. Some examples of this is making sure that you have election reminders for your vote to be cast. You also get to see what's on your ballot and get step-by-step assistance requesting your mail ballot. Explore your options for returning your voted mail ballot, check your voter registration status, finding a polling site, and making sure you have the appropriate ID. It does everything it needs to do to help you in your situation. So if you're ready to vote and you decide this is the right thing for you, then make sure that you go to the howto.vote. Decide when and where you vote this year at howto.vote. Appreciate you guys. See you out there on the polls. Yo, 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 yo. Welcome back to the Playoffs of Life podcast. This is your host, Adrian Hatcher. And we are back, guys. And you know what we do here on this pod. This is the pod where we talk about basketball, lifestyle, and finances in that order. But most of the time, we go off the top. Today's podcast is a little bit of a brief introduction back into regularly scheduled program because we have taken probably about a 2-week hiatus due to the last podcast episode I did make. If you haven't checked that out yet, check out The Solution, Black Utopia. It was an amazing podcast episode. I got a chance to really talk to the right people, get everything together, and basically create something that I feel was inspirational during this Black Lives Matter movement. I'm really proud of it, and I'm proud of the people that contributed to it. And I would definitely like to do something like that again very soon. And we got some stuff for y'all later in the pod that I'll be talking about. Hopefully it'll all come to fruition, but we're definitely planning some big things for this podcast. So stay tuned, guys. Stay tuned. Let's pick back up with the Black Lives Matter movement. It's still not over. For those of you who are listening right now, whether you got a chance to listen to that episode or not, Black lives still matter. We are still fighting this fight. Just because the amount of energy that has been put into it isn't as strong as it's been the last couple of weeks, it doesn't mean that the fight is over. So I want you to continue to do what you can to promote Black Lives Matter, to do your best to destroy racial segregation, destroy the system that has built this racial tension between races against Black people. We have to fight it, and we have to continue to fight. And that's something that we are going to be doing, like I said, more and more of on this podcast. But let's have some fun. Let's talk about some things, some lighthearted things. Let's get back into what's been going on in sports, because one thing I always love to do on this pod is to talk about my team, but of course the NBA. And guys, the NBA is back. It is back with full force. We are planning in the next 7 days to have our first official NBA game back on television. And I cannot tell you how excited I am to see that and to be able to take a day off just to be able to see the NBA. It's going to be awesome. Okay. I mean this. The reason the NBA is coming back is due to the coronavirus. They have created a system in place in Orlando that we call it the NBA bubble. And in this NBA bubble, only certain people are authorized in or out. The players, of course, have to stay there for approximately 3 months. It really depends on how long the team lasts in the playoffs, because there will be 8 regular season games, I believe. And after those 8 games, they go straight into the playoffs. And from the playoffs, we go straight into the NBA finals, all in one place leading up to a 3-month spectacle that I think will be amazing. And let me tell you the reason I think this is going to be amazing. First of all, these players have had time off, not only to relax, to de-stress, but to actually get back in shape, to focus on certain aspects of their game. Usually when we go into the playoffs, we already know that some teams will go in more tired than others because they've had to work harder to secure their playoff spot. I'm talking about those 8 seeds, 7 seeds, and 6 seeds, maybe even the 5th and 4th seeds. Really, the top 3 seeds are the ones that they get an early playoff spot, and they kind of get to sit back and plan out their execution for the next games in the playoffs. But everybody is healthy. Everybody. And of course, we have 8 regular season games going into the playoffs. So that gives them time for any players that may have occurred rust or may need in-game action. They get it. So I love the plan that the NBA has come up with. It seems like they've thought this through completely, and there's no reason to doubt it. They have created such an intricate plan that even Dr. Fauci, I believe, who leads the fight against this coronavirus, he recommended following the NBA guideline plan on how to bring things back, such as sports, such as the NFL, soccer, tennis, golf. He recommended that owners and higher ups actually follow the NBA plan. So I think the NBA has been doing a tremendous job at this. I'm up for it. Now there is some contradiction here because the Black Lives Matter movement has been involved actually in the NBA returning. Some players have made the decision to sit out of actually playing because they feel like the NBA coming back distracts from the message that they have been sending. It gives people a reason not to focus on what truly matters. Now, I'm of the belief, being an NBA fan, that it doesn't, that you can focus, you can have fun and get your entertainment, but that you can also support a movement that means more than anything at this point. I don't think there has to be a double-edged sword there. Players such as Kyrie Irving, I believe Avery Bradley, Dwight Howard, they have spoken up with their voices about this, and rightfully so. As Black African Americans, they have a right to speak their minds about how they feel and how they believe the NBA should guide back. Like I said, I'm of the belief the NBA can come back. I'm hopeful that everything will work out and we will officially get those games. Of course, it may seem awkward at first because there won't be any major crowds there. Of course, there will be people, but it'll have a different feel than a regular NBA game, just because a mass of people that we usually get, the crowd won't be there, that type of energy. But I don't really feel like the players need the energy of the crowd to necessarily fight for a title, to fight for the NBA championship. I definitely think players such as LeBron James would love a crowd there, but it doesn't necessarily deter him from doing what he does best, and that's winning basketball games. So with that being said, thank you, NBA, for coming back at such a efficient and safe manner. I hope everything works out. I hope players get paid. I hope players play. I hope we get a championship this year. I'm rooting for the Bucks. I really think they have a really good chance this year, but we will see. LeBron James and Anthony Davis ain't nothing to play with. Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are a good tag team that may want to come out the East to fight the Lakers. I already got it's really between the Lakers and Clippers at this point in the West, and then the East is kind of up for grabs to me. I think the Bucks do have such a tremendous chance because of Giannis at an MVP caliber, and a focused Giannis who is knocking down his shots, knows how to facilitate, and knows how to put his own style of aggression on the game. I think that speaks tremendous words for how amazing Giannis is going to be this year. But we'll see. We'll see with the NBA coming back. With that being said, the only other thing that I wanted to hit up with the NBA is that my Chicago Bulls, real quick note, for any Chicago Bulls fan that listens to this podcast, we're doing okay. With our new front office, they've been making great moves. I'm okay with everything they've made. The decisions for the GM, vice president, general staff, training staff, Everybody seems to be in the right place. I'm extremely happy. I'm extremely optimistic for our offseason. Jim Boylan is still a coach. In a previous podcast, I talked about how I wasn't necessarily sure, how I would feel, but I'm 100% sure now that I would love a new coach. I kind of just had to make up my mind on that. So can't really do much about that right now, but he is our coach. We're going into an off season. Off season actually got moved up. I got a text saying that the lottery was going to be August 20th instead of the August 25th. So that just means that we get to know who's going to be on our teams a little bit sooner, which to me, I'm okay with that. If you're not, leave a comment telling me why you think the lottery should be pushed back, or leave a comment talking about your favorite team, which team that you think is going to be in the NBA playoffs this year, which teams do you think are going to get kicked out. My underdog team right now is the Trailblazers. A lot of people are doubting them, but I know Dame Lillard has proven doubters wrong plenty times, especially in the playoffs. In the biggest moments, he has shined, and I really feel like he can push his team into securing a playoff spot, and eventually, maybe fighting for the NBA Finals. That's dun da da dun, but we'll see how he does, basically. So I'm excited. I'm very excited. I'm very in tune with what's going on. I literally took a day off of work to be able to watch the first official games. If that doesn't tell you how excited I am, I don't know what will. With that, we'll go to the next topic. But before that, we'll take a break. Like I said, leave a comment. I'll leave my Twitter handle. I'll also leave my Facebook, and I'll leave my Instagram link in the podcast episode so you can follow me. And once you follow me, I have daily polls and I have questions that I ask people. If you're a Twitter junkie, chime in. If you're a Facebook junkie, chime in. If you're an Instagram follower of mine, hey, leave a comment. Inbox me, please. Let me know how you feel. Let me know if there's topics that you want me to bring up on the pod. Let's get a conversation going. So with that, this will conclude part 1 of the Playoffs of Life episode. I think we're on episode 10. Yeah, I'm gonna go with 10 on this one. So we're gonna take a quick break, guys, and I'll see you in a little bit. Peace. Yo. This is the Playoffs of Life podcast with your host, Adrian Hatcher. We are picking back up with part 2 of this episode. What I wanted to really speak about in this part 2, and if you're feeling kind of like this is kind of episodic with me saying part 1 and part 2, it's because I'm trying something new for the pod. Since I am coming back to it, I wanted to kind of get a different flow in this one. I've really been feeling more confident with the way I approach the podcast, with talking to you all. It's kind of like having a conversation with another person, even though you can't see them. And people that know me know I talk like this all the time. So if you like it, if my audience enjoys it, then I will continue to display this confidence that I have in this podcast. But with that being said, I really wanted to do a book review for this episode of the podcast. And the reason I wanted to do that is because I've been reading a lot of different books lately. Shout out to Queen if she gets to hear this one. I've really been intrigued and really amazed with this book that she recommended to me called Behold a Pale Horse. And I'm actually going to give you a summary of what the book is centered on and what it's about. It focuses on a guy by the name of Bill Cooper. He was a former United States Naval Intelligence Briefing team member. A lot of words for probably a secret agent. Reveals information hidden from the public. This information was kept top secret government files since the 1940s. Cooper unveils the truth as he writes about the assassination of John F. Kennedy, the war on drugs, the secret government, and wait for it, guys, UFOs. I haven't got to the UFOs part yet. I just really started the book. But shout out to Queen for recommending such an amazing book. From what I've read so far, it really makes you think about how the world we live in is working, who is really pulling the strings, how our government is operating foreign wise and locally. If you really want to get a different perspective from a guy, trust me, when you listen to the way he words certain things in the book, you're gonna kind of have questions, because he phrases a statement as a question, as if saying, this is what I believe happened, this is what I can show evidence for, but what do you think, the audience that are listening? So check this book, guys, out if you want to. It's called Behold a Pale Horse. I promise you, from what I've reading so far, you will not be disappointed. But let's get to a book that I actually have finished, a book from an author that I was very emotional listening to. If you ever get a chance, guys and girls, ladies and gents, those of the other sex and those of mine, if you ever get a chance to check out a book by the name of Never Die Alone, or Black Girl Loss, or White Man's Grief, I promise you, you will gain something that you've never gained before. You will gain humility. You'll gain a different idea of what it's like to live a life of tragedy, hopelessness, intrigue for sure. I was curious reading the book, and the book that I'm really talking about is Never Die Alone. That one really had an impact on me. Never Die Alone is about it has two perspectives, actually. One is actually from a man, I don't want to spoil it, but a man who finds or who obtains a journal from a guy by the name of King David. And in the book, you actually get to know about this guy, King David, and get kind of like a glimpse into his life, basically. But there's this diary or journal that's found, and it leads to events that happen further in the book. And then there's a perspective of another character, which I didn't expect. The book doesn't really tell you until you reach that part of the chapter, of a gentleman who, I guess I could say, has beef with King David, has a grudge against King David and his short journey. The book is very short. It's probably up to, I believe it's only 250, maybe 280 pages. And wow, like, to give you some context, guys, from my perspective, I am a suburban kid who has lived a life really easy. I haven't really had too much struggle in my life. And to read books that talk mainly about the struggle, it got me emotional. And it's even getting me emotional now, mainly because I didn't understand. I kind of compared it to the idea that people have when they talk about how white people don't understand the struggle that Black people go through. But then when they get a certain piece of information, it touches your soul as a human being, and it forces you to understand that there's something wrong about the events transpiring. Now, of course, this is a book, but the author's name is Donald Goines, and he was a drug dealer who went to jail, actually, or drug addict. Let me get that right. Drug addict who went to jail and began writing these books about the struggle of Black people. And when I talk about the struggle, he talks about drug dealers, he talks about prostitutes, he talks about those Black girls that we are little Black princesses out there in the world, and how they view things in the world, and how they end up struggling with life just due to unfortunate circumstances, whether it's their environment, the people that they interact with, or maybe even their darkest souls, the darkest parts of their souls. Things like that are the type of stuff that you will be engaging in this book. Never Die Alone was just one example. Black Girl Loss made me cry. I really don't even want to get into that. I'd rather you as an audience check it out if you can. These books, it's 12 in total, but these books center on real struggle, center on no sugarcoating No holding hands. It is brutal. It is violent. It is vicious. It is surreal. It is straight to the point. It tugs at your heartstring because you know that this could happen, or this is happening to people out there in the world. And for it to pertain specifically to blacks, I think that's what really affected me. And Donald Goines, being the man he is, it's kind of like that whole statement. You can't judge a cover by its book, because reading that, the author of this book, it was a drug addict at one time and went to jail, would force you to think that it wouldn't be good, would force you to think that this man isn't intelligent enough to come up with a book that can impact you so vividly. And I know I'm just going on a rant at this point, but I say these words because I want people to understand how impactful one of his books is, to the point where I really want to read the other 10. I finished Never Die Alone. I am almost done with Black Girl Lost, and it just hits you, you know. So if you get a chance, guys, check out Black Girl Lost. Very, very good book. Never Die Alone, and many others. And if you're interested, I can also leave a link on Amazon to Donald Goines' books. His books are not that expensive. It's honestly, I believe, like $1 and change, because these books were made a couple years ago, probably more than a couple, maybe about 10 or more. But we all know that the oldies, like our parents would say, or like any person who lived back then, the old stuff is the best stuff. It is the creator, the originator. You have not read a book like a Donald Goines book this year. I can promise you that. Okay, so check that out, guys. Hope you enjoy it. If you do, leave a message on my Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Also on anchor.com/playoffsoflife, you can leave me a voice message telling me how much you liked the book. Maybe you hated the book. Maybe you cried just like me. We can talk about it. We can cry together if that's something you want. I don't know though. I've gotten a certain amount of voice messages of encouragement. You know, I haven't got any hate messages yet. I'm not really asking for it, but I do want some type of interaction. So if that's how you feel, you know, let me know. So yeah, guys. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with another part of the Playoffs of Life, episode 10. Peace. All right, guys, we are back with part 3 of this podcast episode. This episode is going to pertain specifically to the changes that I've made on the pod since the last episode, as well as kind of like an update of the things that I'll be doing by a week-to-week basis. So I figured out that I have time now to basically do this on a week-by-week basis. That's always been my plan. I was doing good with 2 weeks, but at the same time, I am trying to increase like the listenership and to get people more engaged with it. And the only way I can do that is if I take the necessary time to make it happen. So that's what I went ahead and did, job wise and personal life wise, just so I could put more focus into it, because I was really enjoying the month. Really, the month of June and May were like my best months. I really was engaged. I really understood what I was doing, and I felt super confident with the interviews that I did during that month, as well as the content that I was getting, the content that was being provided by those who contributed. I really enjoyed their time and getting to know them better. So shout out to those people who contributed during those months, as well as anybody that's spoken on my podcast so far. I really appreciate it. With that being said, though, other than it being a week-by-week basis, I also plan on keeping the same format. And that format is basically off the top. I feel more comfortable like that, honestly. Like when I'm able to just speak generously and speak at my own pace, at my own time, not really feeling conformed, then I'm good. I do have like a little script that I create before I make each podcast, but that's really just to keep me on track with time and everything else. So with that being said, the only other things that I will be changing on the podcast is the listening ship. I am going to be promoting the podcast more and more on my Twitter and Instagram, as well as my Facebook, just so I can do different things. Like I do want to do a giveaway soon. I got big plans with some more interviews coming up. I also have some book reviews that I actually want to do for the podcast. See if I can get a segment for that specifically. Maybe basketball, lifestyle, finances, and books in that order. Maybe not, but we'll find out. And just a shout out to anybody that has contributed and, like I said, supported this podcast so far. This episode is really out to those people who are still rocking with it and who enjoy listening to me talk for like an hour or so. People say my energy is infectious, but as y'all who listen, your energy is also infectious. Seeing how many people listen motivates me on a day-to-day basis. Other than that, I believe that's all the updates I really wanted to do. I'm pretty sure that's everything that I wanted to put out there. Next episode is going to be really good. I got a plan for exactly what I want to do already, so it's just about executing that. So you can expect another episode next week, and also you can also expect more content, consistent content. After my last episode, Solution to Black Utopia, I started doing things outside of the podcast to promote Black Lives Matter. And I wanted to actually put it on the podcast, but I put it on the back burner because, as important as it is, I didn't necessarily think the podcast was the best place to leave that information, and I've been watching the news lately. With everything going on, we have to still enjoy life, but know that we can make an impact in our own way. Just a sneak peek into what I'll be talking about in the next podcast. We're going to be talking about creating your own business. We're also going to be talking about the challenges that you can face with creativity and perspectives that you'll get from other people, and how that can affect the content that you create as well as the products that you put out there in the world. If you're interested in that, then tune into the next episode. So that is it, guys. This is the Playoffs of Life podcast with your host, Adrian Hatcher. And like I always say, everyone has a dream, but only you can make it reality. So I will see y'all for the next episode, guys. Peace.